everyone, and welcome back to the DMside. So last week we had our first session, and now before we start, actually, I want to say big thank you to everyone who subscribed. It's already at like 28 subscribers, which is to me amazing. So a huge thank you. If you think anyone else would find some value or enjoyment out of these videos, feel free to share it to them or just send them a link. Basically, I would love for any comments down below on the last video and advice on what your sessions are like and what you think is going to come up for my sessions. And yeah, just consider subscribing to the channel. It's already looking really good. But if you haven't seen the previous video where we go through the characters' backstories, I would highly recommend you look at that, because I'll be referring to the players as their characters now, and so you may get confused if you don't know who they are. I am in the works of actually writing up the story so far, which I'll be breaking down to small chunk-sized videos that I actually voice over with some images to take us on the journey. So if you're more here for the story, I would ask that maybe you wait for those, because I don't want you to have spoilers. But if you're definitely here for the prep and the ideas, then you found the video. So let's get straight into it. Let's do a quick recap so you know where we're at. Last session, the whole party got together and we got through the whole first chapter. So at the start in Yawning Portal, they didn't know each other, but we were sprung into action and had the bar brawl happen where Hootie and Jagged Jack came straight in looking for a fight and the other one looking for a scoop. Then we had Watch trying to break up the fight, as well as Damien helping along with escalating the fight, and then Damien trying to de-escalate the fight. So it was really interesting dynamics there. Durnan came in, eventually breaking it all up as characters Yagra and the Zentarum group. They were all kicked out in separate areas, so where they won't get into a fight again. And then the troll showed up, so that was another fiasco happening within the tavern. The troll actually did manage to kill a couple civilians, so there's probably going to be an investigation there. The characters don't really know. Right now, all seems well, but the characters were able to manage to help Durnan defeat the troll when upon Volo came to them after they were having their victory drinks given to them for free by Durnan. And Volo had said basically, hey, you are the guys that I'm going to hire because I saw you just swing into action there and you didn't even question it. You need to help me. And I'm going to give you 10 gold dragon pieces each, and then maybe some more at the end. 10 times the amount, obviously. They straight away latched to this for their own various reasons. Hootie wanted a story, Jagged Jack and Dr. Smiles wanted the money, Watch wanted to kind of join an adventuring group so that way he can show his value, and Damien wanted to make sure these idiots didn't kill everyone in sight. After getting all the information from Volo, they went straight down to the Skewered Dragon, to where he had last seen him. They spoke to some patrons there, figuring out that once Volo had left, a gentleman by the name of Raynar Neverember showed up, and then the two went out together, never to be seen again. So they went north, they followed it and came across Zoblob's shop. They went in, played around with a couple of the trinkets, met a very interesting character who they couldn't tell was saying the truth sometimes, but was, who then managed to say that he had seen Floon and Raynar together be jumped by a group who had a snake with wings tattooed. So now they knew that the Zentarum were involved. Through a little investigation, they found their way to Candle Lane and went into the warehouse where Floon and Raynar were being kept, but they were a little too late. The Xanathar's guild had come in and kidnapped who they thought was Raynar to get more information on a particular stone, and left a few of their henchmen behind to deal with Floon, to kill him off because he was a loose end. The players went in, killed off the henchmen who were discovered to be Kenku. They got some information out of them. Then they found Raynar Neverember, who felt terrible that Floon had been mistaken for him and taken by Xanathar's guild. So he had asked the group, please can you save him? Here is why they wanted me. So they learnt about the Stone of Galore, they learnt about the Cache of Dragons. Raynar Neverember said it was probably all just a myth and a complete waste of time, but nevertheless his friend has been taken. And he actually asked to go along with them. They questioned, well, how come, what about your royalty? Aren't you like your father and stuff? And he just said, I'm nothing like my father. Screw that guy. My father wouldn't do this. I'm coming to find my friend. And so he did. He went along with them. They managed to find their way down into the sewer after speaking with a few people and getting some information. Again, finding their way down into this entire current hideout that they came across. They worked their way through, battling a few creatures along the way, and then they came across this scene where Floon was being interrogated, but they had realized that this was not Raynar Neverember, and there was this apprentice mage who was doing the interrogation, and up on a podium was, I think the name is Nihildor. If I'm not pronouncing that correctly, I will definitely have that by the end of this session. Nihildor the Mind Flayer, and he had his little terrible creatures, the intellect devourers. Really weak, insane ability, which can just absolutely destroy a player's first character. And it nearly did happen. Luckily, rolled super low on all the damage, so they didn't actually go down, which is just an actual miracle in its own, because when we run the game, we know the risk. But those creatures, they're just interesting. Too weak to be a higher challenge rating, but too strong an ability for them to be such a low challenge rating. So I think as a DM, it really comes down to your choice on using it, and whether or not it's worth it at the time. But basically they killed the mage, his apprentice, and then so Nihilou went over and started devouring his brain, and they all heard within their minds, "You should leave now while I feast, or you'll be next." And so they picked up Floon and they escaped, taking him back to Volo, which was awesome. They were then not given any extra money, but they were given the deed to Trollskull Manor, which they paid for the signing of passing over the property. And I'm really interested because they didn't pick up on the fact that Volo had said previously that he was making a new book called Spirits and Spectres. And then in the process of giving them the Troll Manor, when they say, "Well, why are you giving it to us?" he said he was using it for research for a book, and he doesn't need it anymore. So no one picked up. So, I mean, it's haunted. The place is haunted. How did they not realize that he was doing it for research for a book on spirits and spectres? But anyway, that is a recap very quickly in probably 7 minutes or so of session 1, which actually went for 6 hours. And the videos that I'll be making in the future will be broken down into I hope, like 20-minute videos, 4 parts maybe. But we'll have to wait and see, because I don't really want to miss any details, because I think that these stories are awesome. Moving on for session 2. We're going to break this video up into 2 pieces. There'll be a 2.5 as well to talk about the factions that will come and try and convince the players to become part of either their guild or their faction, where they can get extra goals and jobs and get renown and all that sort of stuff. That'll be in the next video. Let's talk about Trollskull Manor. Trollskull Manor is an absolute wreck. It's run down. It hasn't been open for years now, I think decades. It was once this beautiful tavern and this beautiful inn, basically, where lots of people would stay and drink, and it was just lively and vibrant. But over the years, it has actually just fallen into just disarray. And there was a bartender, the tavern owner, known as Leaf, and his spirit, his soul is still there in the tavern. He can't let it go, so he's become a spectre. He does understand Common and I think Elvish, and he doesn't want anyone in there. He doesn't want anyone ruining the place. He doesn't want anyone tearing it down. All he wants is for the tavern to be this beautiful thing that it once was. So when the characters first get in and start exploring, they're going to find notes all around, and written on the walls in blood, or written in the dust in the windows, and get a cold chill in the air. It's going to be a very horror theme, which I really do love, especially after running Strahd a couple of years ago. I love that gothic era sort of feel. And so there'll be signs like "Get out" and "Last call" and "You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here" sort of lines. And I'm really hoping that they don't kill Leaf, and that they actually do realize that he just loves this place so much. And if they do, and they commit to building the tavern back up to what it once was, I'm actually going to have, and it doesn't happen in the book, this is my own personal choice, I'm going to have him shift from a spectre into a ghost, essentially. And instead of his spirit being free and he goes up and goes to wherever his chosen god's realms are, he'll actually be able to speak once again as a ghostly figure who runs the tavern for the guild. If they become their own guild, for the players. And then he'll be a source of information for them. So some of his information are old memories that are slowly coming back to him, and some of the information that he has may be incorrect, because at the end of the day, he was a tavern owner who didn't always get the right answers from people. He heard stories. So there'll be a lot of misinformation splashed in there with true facts. I think that'll help the players not worry so much about running the tavern and more about just enjoying having a tavern. I get a real Peaky Blinders sort of feel. So if anyone watched Peaky Blinders, really awesome TV series, and the guy, what's his name? Tommy kind of runs this gang, the Peaky Blinders in London. The point is, he doesn't own any of the pubs. but he definitely goes around and he pays for their protection. And so he gets a lot of free stuff from it. So I get that sort of feel of what's coming up with Trollskull Alley. So we'll see how that goes. How much is it going to cost to fix this place? It's been out of commission for so many years. Well, the book tells you it's going to cost you about 1,000 gold pieces, and then there's ongoing costs on top of that. And you need to get approval essentially from all the certain guilds that you will need to pay to that 1,000 gold to build the place up. It'll take 12 days, I think, if you get everyone to say yes, which isn't too hard because they want the money. But they'll need to speak to the Carpenters Guild, they'll need to speak with any of the smithies to get locks and bars and things put in, they'll need to speak with land rights and stuff to make sure that they can get the place checked out, they'll have to talk to the wineries guilds to go look about getting booze into the bar, they'll need to talk to the bakery guilds so they can get food into the bar, then they'll have to talk to I think it's the Dust Sweepers Guild, to keep all the front of the street clean. And this is all ongoing taxes that they'll have to pay. And then we get to do a whole cool thing at the end of the month where we roll and see if they actually made money or not. And then depending on who they've actually pissed off, because they may not accept these guilds as the people who they want to build up the town. They may do it themselves, they may go find other contractors who are outside of the city walls for cheaper. And that may really deter them making money, and that'll come down to, well, are you selling food or not? And so, well, they'll get less money from not selling food anyway, but are you getting someone else to bake you food for cheaper? I mean, Jagged Jack and Dr. Smiles are going to try and save a quick buck by selling meats that are probably not meats that you should be selling, you know, real Sweeney Todd sort of stuff here, and that could affect them. We'll see how they go with that. If they do that and they manage, the next thing is exploring the actual alleyway that they'll be living in, where they'll meet most of these characters. So the first character that they have potentially to meet, and I've got my trusty notepads in here so I don't forget it myself when I run the session. Really great. I would highly recommend, if you are using just the digital book, maybe having a notebook where you write down notes, or getting the actual physical book. I know it costs the exact same and you'll be paying for it twice, but what I love about it is that I can stick my notepads in there, and then when I flip to the next page, it's just quick and easy. But the first person they'll meet is Talasolvana, who is a half-elf male. He makes furniture. And so he could just be a really good friend who has some information that they may talk about. He's nothing really special in the book, so I think he's just going to be a great neighbor. That's my plan for him. Good neighbor, good guy, makes good furniture. Don't lowball him, because if you lowball him, the furniture may break easier than it should. Take his price, that stuff's going to last for years. Then we've got the two Genasis. We have one fire Genasi, one water Genasi. We have Avi, the water, and Embrick, the fire, who has a bit of a hot temper. But both are members of the most careful order of skilled smiths and metal forgers. So this is where they can get a lot of their armor made. This is where they get a lot of their weapons made and upgraded. This is also where they can get things like bars and locks and things made for their actual home, for the manor. Avi is part of the splendid order of armory locksmiths and finesmiths, so that's why they can make those things. Then moving on over to that, we have Corellon's Crown. Now Corellon's Crown is an interesting place because there is actually a character there named Fala Lefali, and they are gender neutral, so they prefer to just be called by their name, Fala, or if you have to say, rather than saying he or she, they would request that they say they. They're a druid, and they work within herbals, and so they're actually part of the apothecary and physicians guild, so that's going to be a real problem for Dr. Smiles and Jagged Jack, who actually have a bit of words going around about these two individuals who are practicing physicians' work without licenses, so there could be a bit of conflict there. And on top of that, Fala was actually saved by a Zentarum guild member known as Ziraj long ago, and now they're actually good friends. Ziraj actually visits Fala quite often, so the characters could perhaps become quite friendly with Ziraj through being friendly with Fala, or vice versa. They could probably make an enemy out of Fala if they mess with Ziraj at all. Now, what does the store sell? The store sells potions. So, comment down below. My big question for this one is, if your characters ask you for a specific potion, how do you go about it? Do you use any of the tables in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, where you're making tables and it takes time? Do you have your own system where you roll whether they actually have the potion, and then roll again on how much it would cost if they can actually get it, and then how much do they actually have? In the past, I've played in a similar game where the way it worked is you would roll, I think it was a D10, and depending on how rare the item was, depending on the percentage you needed to roll for it to actually be available, and then on top of that, you would roll a D4 to see how much they have on the shelves, and depending on how rare it was, there was a -1 or a -2 to see if you would even get one of those items, which is really interesting, but I know that there are different ways. So comment below, how do you deal with giving items to, potions in particular, to your players? Moving on from there, we have someone that I think Hootie and Watch are gonna love. Watch because he's in this bit of turmoil right now. Is he part of the City Watch? Is he not part of the City Watch? He's trying to make a name for himself, essentially, with this group. And Hootie, who is an investigative journalist, they're about to meet at the Tiger's Eye Vincent Trench. Now, Vincent Trench is a human male, and he is a private detective. The players can ask and pay him to search out for information for them. Now, my big worry with this character is it kind of means it's like pay to play within the game. If you can't figure out the information, you can't be bothered, you could just go get some money and pay this guy to do the work for you. So my workaround with it is that I'm actually going to roll a d6. On a 5-6, he'll be in and he'll be available. On a 1, 2, 3, 4, he won't be in and he won't be available. And then on top of that, anything that is like real key story beats is either going to cost a lot for them to actually figure out, or it'll come at a cost of Vincent being found out for what he really is and then disappearing into a new disguise. So he is actually secretly a Rakshasa, which I'll put a picture up of now for you to see. Really cool, like noble cat-looking dude. And he changes his identity throughout the years so he's never found out. So this could be an interesting way if they pay the big price and then he gets caught and then he vanishes and they lose that informant, essentially. Outside of that, the final place that we do have is a bookstore, which I really do like. It's the Bookworm Treasure. It's run by a gold dragonborn known as Rishal, and he is a mage who is part of the Order of Magisters and Protectors. So that's the guild that is pretty much any magic user is highly encouraged to join. So Damien's actually going to be really highly encouraged to join this place, as well as Dr. Smiles. Then his job, what he does is he sells, and I love this. I think this is a really cool character and it's really good. Unfortunately, there's no wizard in the group, so they're not going to benefit fully, but he sells his spells, essentially. He has a wizard, his spell books, and he lets wizards come in and copy the spells into their own books for a price, or for double the price, he'll sell the spell on a scroll. So we can still benefit from using him, but I just wish we had a wizard in the group now. So they are every single person that they can meet within the alley that they'll interact with on this session. My expectations for this session is that they're going to complete the manor, decide whether they're going to do it up or not, and then on top of that, they'll meet everyone who they need to meet in Trollskull Alley to get the refurbishment started. And finally, they'll actually be approached over the 12 days of refurbishment if they have the money. If not, we'll do some jobs in between, and they'll be approached by faction members to actually see if they would like to join a faction. That'll all be in the next video on what factions are available and who I think they're going to join. So check out that next video because that'll be the end of what I think will happen in part 2. I don't think we'll get to part 3 anytime soon. I actually want to draw this out with a couple of missions in between. So next week we'll talk about what missions I've actually come up with, what's going to happen, how it relates to the story, or how it's just almost, I don't want it to ever feel like filler, but I definitely want to draw out chapter 2 so that way they can really enjoy the tavern being open, they can really enjoy it being beautiful and amazing and meeting all these people in Trollskull Alley for chapter 3's big explosion. But I'll see you in the next video about factions.